Hello and welcome back, everybody. It is Refle here. You're watching Refle's anime reviews and discussions. Last time I reviewed the newest Dragon Ball Z movie, Resurrection F, which was a good movie. Glad I saw it. But yeah, now we're gonna do kind of more of a discussion, I guess, than review. But we're gonna be counting down the top 5 shows from summer 2015 so far, because we're about the halfway point for a lot of these shows this season. And I think it's been a very good season so far. It's exceeded my expectations. I did have pretty low expectations because a lot of these shows just didn't grab me, or I guess grab me from what I just read about them. But a lot of these shows have been very, very good. So I've been pleased with many of the shows so far. But there's a few things to note that this is like a personal list, top 5 in my opinion. I haven't watched every single show, this summer, so my list will probably be different than your guys's if you watch a lot. Because I've only watched like 8 or 9 shows. So if I do leave anything that you feel like definitely needs to be at least mentioned, just let me know in the comments and I'll check it out. Because I'm pretty sure I might have missed a few shows, but I think my list is pretty solid. So let's get to it. So number 5, I have Ushio and Tora. So this show is about a kid named Ushio. I can never say his name right, but who kind of discovers this demon pinned by a spear in his basement cellar. Is that even a thing? A basement cellar? I think I just said the exact same thing twice, with a basement and a cellar. No, I don't know, whatever. But he frees this thing, and he gets powers from the spear. So whenever he wields it, he just becomes a bit of a beast himself. And the show is basically about him kind of teaming up with this demon, sort of, kind of. They're not really teaming up, but eventually they kind of start to like each other in a weird way. But it just reminds me of classic 90s anime shows, and it's just really good. I think they did actually release like a show in the 90s called, it was Ushio and Tora, so this is kind of like a reboot. But I like what I've seen. It seems like the show's going to get a lot more epic, and I'm curious to see where it's going to go from here on out. Because it is kind of dark. Because people die a lot in the show. It might not be any of the main characters, but a lot of civilians have died so far. And fighting scenes, there haven't been many. But they've been pretty good. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where this show goes. So if you like 90s anime, this is definitely a show you should kind of check out. It has a pretty cool opening intro song. So yeah, so number 4 is Actually I Am. That's the name of the show, Actually I Am. And this is a comedy romance / harem show. And I didn't start watching the show until like a few of, like, I think episode 3 was out, and I'm like, I guess I'll check out the show, because I wasn't digging what I read about it. But I just decided to check it out since I didn't have much to do, and I just I liked what I saw. It's a show that's about Asahi Kuramine, who's a kid who can't keep secrets, and he discovers basically a whole bunch of people's secrets, and he has to keep them secret. and one of the people is a girl who he likes, who's a vampire, and that's where kind of things kind of kick off, and then just basically just keeps building into a harem because all these girls sort of like him, but they all kind of are weird. Like one's a vampire, one's a werewolf, one's an alien, one is I don't even know yet, and one's I guess there's not. I think that's pretty much it. But there's a bunch of like weird kind of like devils and stuff like that. It's weird, but it's entertaining because it's a funny show. It's very different from other harems and stuff like that. Because I like to describe it as like a PG harem. It's like not even bad. Like it doesn't get to levels of haremness that's just disgusting. It's just this is a bunch of people who like this guy, and like it just is funny, and it's sort of a childish show, but it's more of an it's not childish, but it sort of is. It's lighthearted, I guess you could say, and it's entertaining. And I just like it more and more after each episode. It also has a really good intro song, like it's stuck in your head. And yeah, it's just a funny show. The last few episodes have been really funny because of a certain character who's the best. But yeah, I definitely recommend watching it. I know kind of harems turn off some people, but this is not nearly as bad. It's definitely more of a comedy and romance than anything else. So Actually I Am is number 4. Number 3 is Gangsta. This was one of my more anticipated shows heading into the season, and I think it's pretty much lived to the expectations. It's about basically these two guys named Warwick and Nicholas who are they call themselves handymen. They're not really gangsters. They more or less just kind of do jobs for people. And that can range from the police to actual gang or mob bosses and anything in between, really. And it kind of centers around there's multiple storylines really going on right now. One's kind of focusing on the backstory of these two characters, which is interesting and dark because the show is really depressing and dark and bloody. Another's kind of hinting towards another storyline which I won't talk about. But yeah, it takes place in a very poverty-stricken town and city where basically the mob runs everything and the police are corrupt because the mob basically runs the police, so everything's just crap everywhere. But learning about the backstory of these two characters is really interesting because one of the characters is a Twilight, which is like a elite fighter warrior who is elite. Like they know how to fight. Like you will see it in episode 2 or 3, because he's a badass. Nicholas is a really cool character because he's also deaf, so there's a bunch of sign language in the show, which is I think it's cool to see because I really haven't watched a show where sign language is like a big part of a show, and it's a good chunk, or not I would say a good chunk, but it's a part of a show for sure. But it has some good action scenes with Nicholas because he's a beast, like I said, and learning about these two characters' backstories because they're linked together is interesting. And like I said, it is a dark show. It's depressing as well. It's good. It's entertaining. And if you like dramas, then you'll definitely like Gangsta. It also has a good intro song. I think we're gonna see a theme here. I guess the next show doesn't have my favorite intro song, but it's not bad either. But yeah, so Gangster is number 3. Gangsta, not gangster. Gangsta is number 3. Number 2 is Charlotte, which is a show about you. What's his name? You something. I gotta figure this out. You. Atosaka, who is a guy who, or kid, I guess, teenager, who he has a power that lets him kind of control somebody for like 5-8 seconds, and uses that power to kind of cheat on tests and get popular, and get good grades and all that stuff, until he's discovered by another group of people with powers, and they kind of force him to join him, or force him to join them. And every single one of these characters' powers are flawed or imperfect. Like one person can go super fast, but he can't control his speed, and he can't stop. So he crashes into stuff, and it's kind of funny. But it's basically this group goes around and tries to prevent people from using their powers, because scientists operate on these people to learn about them, and it completely screws them up. There's a depressing episode early on that kind of shows what happens, but it's entertaining, and the first few episodes I would say are fairly lighthearted, but the show progressively gets more and more darker, and it's definitely a drama. And the last few episodes have been it's just been heartbreaking, really, especially the last episode. Yeah, it's a depressing show. The last episode I watched, which was episode 7, is really depressing, because you don't expect to, because episode 6 you don't expect the thing to happen, and you kind of see the ramifications in episode 7. In episode 7, it's one of the best put together episodes of a show I've watched. It felt like an hour. It felt like an hour and a half episode, but they just managed to fit it into 24 minutes, and I don't know how, but they did a fantastic job, because everything fit perfectly and progressed everything well, and nothing felt rushed. It was a really good and well done episode. But it's from some of the people who are working on the show worked on Angel Beats, and I didn't know about that until a few episodes ago, and I can see why. I haven't watched Angel Beats, but I've heard it's a very depressing show. And this show definitely feels like it's heading that way, but it's been really, really good. And like I said, it's a drama that's worth watching. Because there's a lot of unexpected things that happen. And I'm interested to see where it goes on from here. But I think I have a feeling it's not going to be good, but we'll have to see. But it's Charlotte. It's a really good show. Highly recommend it. It does have some comedic moments, but I'm interested to see what happens from here on out, just because. So Charlotte is number 2. So number 1 is Rokka. Braves of the Six Flowers. And this show I didn't have too much high expectations for, but it's blown past them, and it's become one of my favorite shows the last few seasons. Because it's a really, really good show. It's really well done, and it's just every single episode I'm like, God dang it, why you have to end? I have to wait another week to see it. Yeah, so the show is about six braves who are kind of chosen by a goddess to kind of take down the evil demon god or whatever he's called. And these six braves, whenever a brave dies, his mark gets moved on to another person, and so on. And it's kind of, I think they've fought the evil god multiple times. But it's kind of just what they have to do to save the world and stuff. And mainly you're following Adelet, who is one of the people chosen. And he's an interesting character. He's a cool character. I like him. And all these characters I feel are very interesting, and I'm sure they have good backstories. We haven't gotten to the backstory of most of them, but a few of them I have, and they're all interesting and well done characters in my opinion. But the real kicker for a show is when they all meet together, there is 7 braves. So if you remember right, it's braves of the 6 flowers. So there's supposed to be 6, but there's 7. So one of them they assume to be with the evil god and trying to screw him up. So I guess for the last few episodes, that's basically been it's been them trying to discover this mystery of who this 7th brave actually is, or who's the fake. And that's where things get really interesting, because you're just trying to figure out who it could be. You're trying to, oh man, that person's really obvious, but then you're just like, no, it's too obvious. That can't be that person. It has to be the least obvious person. And you're like, no, that's the least obvious is too obvious. And like I have a few people who I think it could be, but I still really don't have anybody nailed down. Because they all have. You can't really trust any of them, but you can't distrust most of them either. Yeah, it's just really interesting. Like it hasn't had too much action, but the action has been good when there has been action. But a lot of this episode's just been talking, and it's just been really interesting. And episodes just fly by. But it's really good. Characters are really well done in the show. They're all different. Adlet's cool. Flamey is cool. I like Flamey. She's the best. There's Nasha Tanya, who's cool, and I don't know, something about her. Something about her. I don't know. But yeah, it's just a really well done show. It just kind of episodes, like I said, go by really quick, which is evidence of a really good show. And I don't know really what's gonna happen from here on out. But yeah, there's the one show I'd recommend you watch because it is really good. It's never drama. This is a very drama-filled season compared to last season, which was just. I think most of my shows were light, besides Plastic Memories, but most of them were lighthearted. But a lot of good dramas if you're like kind of interesting storylines and kind of maybe a little bit darker shows or something like that. But yeah, Rokka, Braves of the 6 Flowers is the one I would recommend you definitely watch. It's one of the best shows I've seen in the last few seasons. And yeah, it should only get better from here on out. But yeah, so if you agree with me, if you have not watched any shows, if there's shows I missed, let me know in the comments below. Just like I said, the season's been really good. It's blown past my expectations, which is good. We'll see what happens for the second half of the summer 2015 season. But I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, so that should wrap it up. And like I said, just comment below if you have any suggestions for shows you want me to review. I don't honestly have anything decided for what I'm going to do next week. I guess I should probably do another review from last season's shows, but I don't know what yet. But anyways, I'm Refle. You guys can probably expect a few reviews of some of these shows once they wrap up in the coming weeks. But we're only halfway point, so you can catch up and kind of keep up to date for the rest of the season, which I think summer season I think ends near the end of September. So we're still a month and a half left. But yeah, it's been really good. But anyways, I have been Refle. You guys are watching Refle's anime reviews and discussions, and thank you for watching. And I'll see you next time.